There you go. So in psychology, is negative value nature. Ego. By the unchanging positives is energize God's omega. Energize God's omega. That's the way nature is flowing back to Z, from A to Z. And if we stay positive to all letters, including value Y, then Z forces positive. The top of the Z points back towards A, forcing positive value nature progressions. And this is in relationship to the radical of consciousness, the radical of correlation nature. So I just want to say, there was a guy. It was like during the Bush administration. It's no joke. It is no. But the sensibility, in other words, this nations, we have to understand. Like when we talk, we're gonna have the aggression forced to all areas, and we're have kindness, false kindness forced. If we don't understand, is what I'm trying to say. With political theory, I'm not a movie guy. But the second I saw this movie by the Kumar guy, during the Bush administration, I had to make one 10 times greater for crazier too, but crazier towards the common goal that no one knows the words for, because everyone's fighting with no means but invested to see through this pathology. You know what I'm saying? And what it is to actually come bottom up, which is the whole thing up, the whole thing. That's really the real. In other words, this is not communism or capitalism either. Those are all linguistic fields they all lost to. That's why they've been with bombs at their back with the standards called stability, only in relation with physical delusions, only through contrast, not through correlation. They make coordinates, not correlation. Not correlation nature. We're working with the same exact nature that wants its own rights in anybody it's in. That forces evolution. That's real positive value nature. That holds it here, and that forces it connects with a nature that's greater, that causes evolution. Excuse me. This is what the sciences actively demonstrate. Excuse me. So, people don't understand the negative value nature progressions and the nature of humanity. So they're trying to fight back, and everyone wants to take, because that's the position being dictated. The only one with that voice, not by accident. We have to understand manners are important. Peace and kindness is important. Real kindness. But see, now there are fields in other words, with politics, kindness is important too. In other words, but what's kind that's forcing finite ignored, bodies of value ignored, overall truths ignored in every nation together, and how that even that is just stayed with as ours, tool reactions to it, investments to it, and with nothing trying to stop it. We saw the war on poverty failed, and why? And with the war on poverty was just one part. It's deeper than that. You know, there are some things that are beyond money. In other words, so we all. That's where the gunk problem, because there are. In other words, this is what religions would say. The law owes an education that's way beyond what has been known, and with means, and make them all, make people understand that their country loves them. You know what I mean? That's what the problem is. Because too long, it's not only been exploited, but it's actively being exploited with fax treatments, all at once, all at once. And it doesn't even know what it's with. What it's with. There are proofs of this. That's why I beg, please let me just explain a story, and that will be just. There's a crazy part about it. We'll start from the West Coast to the East Coast, and we're gonna make notes though, because we're gonna. This is a method to understand about organized crime. In other words, in relationship to colonization. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form. I'm not a criminal. But I want us to understand criminal insidiousness and how it was juxtaposed. And there are proofs that this was through the sciences. And it was through what was beyond that, and beyond its legal natures, which are interconnected. So perpetually blind to what stays beyond that. In other words, even if I'm wrong, then this is a New York movie to make the economic means, and then once, in other words, this is a religion too. It's not a new religion. It's an understanding with sciences that are breaching religions and forcing criminal industry positions with them, and per implications with the religions, per demonstrate proofs of it. That's how Islam saved algebra, saved what brought 500 to 1000 AD, what brought the humanity of Rome, and the nations that were of it into poverty, and the ones that conquered it, because they were of Rome too. But in other words, Rome was Etruscan Rome, which was what? A system that they developed to interact with the rest of the species. And there are proofs that war was criminally engineered. In other words, it's a manifestation of the organized crime that criminally re-engineered ancient revelations. In other words, revelations in the Old Testament, from the beginning of it, there are proofs that it's about negative value nature caused by an archetypal criminal enterprise, one that criminally re-engineered human education to only let realized nations reliant upon it, and reliant upon systems using the ancient Etruscan Roman Republic, and all, and using, which had been revealed by the entire species. This is better education than ours. We inherited English obfuscated. We've inherited the sciences with physical lies and delusions, like even the law in relationship. I'm not a lawyer. It's common sense, using correlation from English, and just common sense. In other words, in relationship to them not explaining the terror theater of our founders. Not only them not explaining the terror theater of our founders, the nature of organized crimes, they blaming it on England. England was extorted by the same method already entrenched there with the same terror laws, tons of them, and to keep terror forced police monitored, forced internation monitored database relationships, terror relationships to databases with these systems and with these laws, and with everybody incapable of not speaking with theater juxtaposed. In other words, all guys and then influences insidiously on top of that, but then no one realized the motivations for it. So we have to understand criminal insidiousness with the terror laws. So if we don't blame it on criminal insidiousness, at least we can agree that it was evidence fabrication. And at least we can agree that it was indifference. And not only can we agree about that, then that gets us deeper into solving the problem. So we can't go after the money, we have to go after the understanding. And then more than money, better is there. You know, we know what we need because we are the same person. We're the same species. Why? There's the same nature coming through us. Why do we have men and women? Because there's three natures. There's the species. In other words, the three natures diffusing through itself. Self-perfection. In other words, progressive value to itself. Unchanging space nature positive. We're in this identity, you know, and when we're negative value nature, it's because we ignored it's our own nature, which is the shared positive identity. This is what correlation reveals. There's a nature of that is active, unchanging positive overall. That's right to left, the first plus sign inside the other video with the ancient snowman. Then with perception, it's a radical, it's a correlation nature in relationship to negative, which all positive always, as positive or not. Then we're diffusing out as negative value nature. That's the bottom of the Z. That's forced away from here. Leth of Hades. And that stays progressively so. Hades. So in other words, if we end up on the negative side, which you can't tell which side is negative. This is just for explaining it. That like the yin yang, there's a black side and a white side. When you explain it, in other words, you're in the nature. So that's not good with the colors though, because we have to go in sequence, because truth is a sequence nature. Another thing, we can't talk to kids because they can't understand about adult things. You know what I'm saying? And they shouldn't be bringing them up and attaching them to these conversations, and then expect and playing linguistic games, forcing either you don't have the conversations about. I don't even know how to have a conversation with now in relationship to sick people in my town, in intercity. You know, I don't even know these people, and they spread rumors in the background. With gangs juxtaposed here, like different cultural ones, and I don't like the KKK narratives and strangers walking up to me with confessions, you know, and police and court people mailing threats to me. Anyways, in other words, I have experience in years of contemplation because I'm trapped because they keep putting me into fake conversations. They even put me in fake conversations about 9/11. They forged names. And then when you call the police, they threaten you. Then they write other. They switch their names. They admit to that. You know, correlatively, you could see that they hide that. They have other police forms involved. You know, I don't know. This stuff is confirmed online. Was from the street confessions from strangers, because I lived in three different apartments, 5 homes I lived in, 5 different places, and then I went to 3 colleges involved in this. But anyways, the the most important thing is to understand unchanging positive correlation, the radical nature of, in other words, and be able to admit you're wrong, admit and to understand how, because it's not by accident. It's not by accident, you know. We should be communicating with whoever came. Well, so we don't have the sophistication to deal with these problems because business can't speak for us. Business is invested, already negotiated. Like our founders were forced to, where they already had entrenchments here, terror entrenchments. They were only leaving off Marbury versus Madison and leverage for us to take free speech. We never did. Part of the reason we never did is because they know if we did, that in other words, they have methods to this. That's what's really, in other words, the opinion natures that are so sensitive with the facts, as the sciences, and that's psychology. It has everybody nuts. These people are criminals. These people are criminals. Recorded proofs. And then they hide. So they just exploit our laws because of the way they're juxtaposed with the courts. And with their drug relationships with the streets, per their friends and per the people who ask for help in relationship to this, and then they make threats because they help they thought they were going to get us halfway is real, you know. But they bring a pattern of bad confessions, all tied to connected things that they don't understand because other people did the same thing to me too. So if you walk up to someone and you make confessions, in other words, you go out of your way to make confessions about roles with doing drugs with police, and then have them demonstrate that in their abuses of women, like these Fianzas. I don't know them. In other words, these are little rats that don't even tell the truth in relationship to a pattern of other evidence fabrication and going back too. And they keep attaching me to fake conversations about my father and about 9/11. And that weren't at all. And that's why they no that's why they too they threaten. It's unbelievable. They just don't follow the law. Can you even hear? I don't even know. Someone said something that they might be blocking so no one could see what I post anyways. That's how sick they are. And they won't put anything in writing since I was a kid with these games. They pretend I had doctors growing up. I never had a doctor growing up, a psychologist. I don't need a psychologist. See, they make terror. They make terror with crimes, and they do it at the street level too. And then this is to all areas connected, and they're using that. They're setting people. There's traps. The trap nature. This is actively exploiting not just poverty, but the same groups, the same people are exploiting suburbs too. This is why we're stuck in this box and no one ever evolved out of it. There are proofs of correlation, but see, they're forcing lies and physical delusions and passions. The emotions are the parents' illusion. My father used to say he's a very wise man, very good at math, very good at law. One accomplished pro se litigant. They attached me to fake conversations about his cases. They said that he lost the case that he won. I never even talked to the guy about it either. That's relationship to my father proved too. In that there was evidence sequence shifting in the context. We were in the 9/11 context in the federal court next to it. You can't make that up. In other words, in relationship to a former defendant, Robert Luskin, a former FBI director, and he had like federal criminals and um, others. That was a different point of the same thing. Well, little parts of the pro se RICO case, which is Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, which is not usually brought by a pro se litigant as a lawsuit for union stuff. He won an NLRB lawsuit against them. What they did, they had all these things juxtaposed, all these crime natures, like cocaine dealers and stuff like that. They juxtaposed them with not just with job sites, but with schools and with evidence fabrication methods, and with and with inter area like polarity cultivations and maintenance methods. In other words, that's connected to the nature of everyone being nasty, and it needs what's connected to it needs our litigation natures, our legal natures. They're the ones who are the failures. In other words, I'm not a lawyer. I'm using correlation. I'm using, this is what religions are demonstrating, and this is what American history's mistreatments are demonstrating. And it does a lot of hurt, and it exploits a lot of hurt, not having people understand what the organized crime is in relationship to the biggest one with colonization. What came before that with the education that left even kings and queens were animals and extorted by insidiousness they didn't understand in relationship to a criminal enterprise that causes criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer. That's what I believe makes sense, because obviously, because think about it. Negative value nature progressions from nation criminal enterprise especially. Negative value nature progressions have to be blamed on lies and delusions. It's a method. You see? Now this was a method that made nations need chaos, then need self-defense from terrorists they don't understand. Now they're wrongdoers. Okay, now they're wrongdoers in relationship to what they don't understand enabling them. Then they get enabled deeper. They become, just they become methods of madness. The nations, each one, because we have a common enemy, but they can't define it, so they blame it on lies and delusions, and then they have expert lean, and that's in relationship to only realized coordinate nature, negative value nature, comparison nature. They can't think. They can't correlate. Then they pretend, like, in other words, most of the people in the military and the generals will say, yeah, that's they want to do this, but the legal natures and all the invested interests would jump in and say, oh, you can't say the generals on it, because if you argue with one of them, you see what I'm saying? In other words, they can't name their enemy with ISIS because, for example, they're talking about extreme Islam, radical Islam, radical Islam. Radicals are our founders as perceptions. See, when they're doing that, they're taking fronts with ISIS, with convictions that only let sciences and with nations sharing. They only have to like each other, but they're sharing needs to exploit denatured landscapes of the earth and of human education and of intercampus connections, database relationships. Not by accident, our houses look exactly the same, and they were made by terror laws standards before they even had cars. They had better houses than they built today. And look at the ones in Haiti. And they denatured the landscape for this, so it would only be remembered this way. In other words, with sciences, and in other words, so then they leave us, and the most sophisticated natures, they're not really sophisticated. By the time they get there, it's only like realize exploiting. That's why we have to have forgiveness, because everybody's hurting back, because everyone knows, and that there's a perfect world not being led, and it should be. It's in native dreams. It's in it's in the dreams of too many exploited areas, urban areas. Forget about it. Top down walls, they're no good. You have to overall has to have water. You know, you don't when you do it in relationship to business, they have everyone measured, entertaining lies and delusions, just in relationship to aesthetics too, in relationship to even trying to imagine how to build and what means. They have in California, homes fall under the rule. You ever see the homes in Friday, the movie Friday? It's disgusting. Like in New Orleans, it's disgusting. And then you know what I'm saying? That's how you build. That's how you leave your standards. Everyone divided. At least at least put especially if you're going to be in Tornado Alley too, right? So why would you not have thick stone thing and then freaking sliding in there? I don't know, but what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Put water. You put fish under the thing. They don't even have to keep them above all the pollution. They don't even have to take care of them. They live under the ice. You put it not like the ponds that we experience is landscape theater. It's all fake. In other words, that's not what kept Native Americans. That's not what made all these species. Nothing could live here now. Not by accident. Even the nature of the soil is all trampled on. How many years we took away the grass and the leaves that was meant not just to fertilize the trees and stuff like that. Is meant for the for life that for nature of consciousness diffusion here. We're letting go with negative value nature. The more negative value nature we are, the more that's just our positive value going away. Bottom of the Z. That forces negative value nature progressions and demonstration of it also not being positive always. That's what correlation is for. That's why it's important to understand the radical, because the radical is in relationship to what nature positive will not go beyond. You see? And so our nations are measured not realizing that we're way beyond positive value nature. We're negative value nature progressions. We can't even admit that there's problems with the environment because people don't see anything. They see, oh, the nice lawn and the trees. Oh, there's nothing wrong. And that's scientists speaking. The scientists are wrought with delusions and with criminal persuasions uncharged. In other words, I'm not a police former, I'm not a lawyer. In other words, a relationship to natures of organized crimes is founded with the narratives of American history. It's no joke because it connects to, everything's not surface value. They have everyone only forced to let with theater, not by accident. And that's was only realized needed for the natures of self-defense natures of treatments of facts and of morality by our litigation natures, predatory, not by accident. And because they're hurt tactically, methodically to all areas, everybody. That's what keeps. In other words, these are by saying these things. If we all get on the same page and just admit reality, then that's fun because then we know exactly how to fix everything better. We stay stuck, BS, and then try to control and then try to hide it. Then you have to start being insidious, and it's even though it's legalized, it was criminally legalized. That's what religions are about. It was criminally legalized. So we have criminal insidiousness natures. We have hurt conviction natures. We have delusion propagation natures of nations, of agencies, and of human judgment, and of human pathology and nature in relationship to ourselves and treatments of facts, treatments of sociology. They divide families too with games because their ability to threaten simultaneous slander and evidence fabrications. See, we missed a lot of natures of organized crime and founding that are still here. That's part of why we missed them, because we don't have anybody that follows the rules. You're supposed to take a report when someone asks to make a report. I asked in writing, especially in writing, they don't want to take a report because they lie systemically in relation murderously. The nature of our breached nations, litigation natures, legal natures, directed by predatory litigation natures. That's what's really exploiting. That's what's holding our regular police, their nature, against the nature inherent to consciousness. They don't want to be like that. That's everyone's indifferent to it because that's the only thing like trained. That's the problem of our top people, because they don't have the words, but not by accident. That's the problem of the sciences. So that's our enemy, not the stewards of the sciences, not the students of the sciences. The facts, the finite, the bodies of value, which require discernment of radical correlation between unchanging positive or not. If it's positive always, then it's justice. Marbury versus Madison. Marbury versus Madison. All true justice must satisfy all appearances of true justice. It sounds something like that, or if not, just like that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not. I'm an English major. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in English and Communications. And I did. It's a little bit. My own studies, in other words, in relationship to treatments of education that everyone ignored, that I didn't, in relationship to organized crime narratives. Like, in other words, right from when I was a freshman, about criminal enterprises. And then I learned from other people about it. My father knew about law, and he was accomplished with that. In other words, he did a pro se RICO lawsuit. He was in the middle of it. He died. I don't know what happened yet, too, because it was terror. I don't know if it was terror. I can't even speak because I need to add. In other words, whenever I do try to speak, they attach lies to what I say, and in conjunction with spreading rumors about me. And then doing it through the media too. And that's the nature of the problem too, with the media pattern, with the police shootings and stuff like that. Came to my house, they probably would have shot me if my wife didn't jump in front of the gun. They came all freaked out, looking like they were scared, and I never did anything for, you know what I mean. One cop forced himself in my house, and he said he had no warrant, and then he threatened me in relationship to another guy with roles with evidence fabrication, a subject galore, and with natures of child abuse. With this too, and with related untimely death confessions from strangers, and threats, and then threats against women, and online even too. So. And not only did they not take that report, they lied about it. They saying they were gonna, and they were gonna give me they said we were gonna get dismissal because they admitted to fabricated police reports too. But then they said other and put me in jail for it. And then one of the guys with the narratives, he was then arrested for related child abuse stuff. And there's more with that, and I can't even. There's more threats and more complicated ones. I can't do it because they're acting on lies and they're stacking databases with lies, and nothing is allowed in writing, and they're faking writing. So we have, that's why this has got to be connected to the shootings, because they're covering up live progressions the way they are, so murderously switching names. The police are switching names. They're directing lawyers to do that, to obfuscate. You can't communicate. Then if they don't let you talk, see, now I'm relaxed. I stay calm because I figured they're taking care of the online rape threats that I mentioned. They were in the court and admitted to being associated with narratives that weren't true on the police reports, and with a Confederate flag theme, and with hate crimes and slander stuff, and with terror acts connected to a story about a shooting in Hartford. Right on a playground. These are animal natures, but they want me to go after the KKK alone. But it's an intercultural little evidence fabrication trap nature. And it's also connected to a number of federal crimes. We recorded proofs of them tied to a two-route highway where it runs into a Hang Dog Lane next to Black Mountain with Maxwell Drive, like in relationship to a couple of different police natures beyond regular police. Two, tied to related evidence fabrications before that. So the police aren't letting me use the police. In other words, I studied this and left proofs of it, and we could all learn from this because this is American history too. Connecticut was colonized with these terror laws and methods before evidence fabrication methods. And what I say, please think about that because I understand this because the people who tell lies in relationship to the laws, these are the people who are failing us, and they need to keep entertained logic, like top-down logic, with junk narratives of teachers in defense of a nature of education that's with lies and physical delusions defending itself, and with pathologies with and through the kids, not with them alone, maintaining that unrealized. The means to explain that, the impositions with education. That's why there's problems with bullying. They need the bullying because if everyone had a clear mind, they're wrought with delusions, with criminal enterprise juxtaposition roles in relationship to systematic evidence fabrication methods in natures, in acts, in problems, even in uses of witnesses through times. But exploitations of all ages of innocence. So, in other words, we need to understand counter theater. We need to understand criminal insidiousness.